super informal start to this video, but I just wanted to give you guys a heads up. This episode was supposed to come out about a week ago, a little over a week ago, but it has some audio issues with my end. I was using the normal mic that I use for all of my Let's Plays and stuff, and it's really crispy. It's an Elgato mic. It's really nice. And for some reason, the recording process that I used for this podcast messed it up. And so my quality is awful, and then Jacob's, our guest on this episode, is perfect. So as long as you can sit through the differences in quality, I think this podcast was fantastic. Jacob was super nice and offered to re-record it, but I loved how natural and how good the first recording went. So just bear with me. This is a great episode, and it has a lot of stuff that's a little bit outdated, a week outdated, but it's still really good. So please listen to the whole thing. Leave a like, pop a sub, comment. Love you guys. Enjoy. All right. Welcome back to the Minty Mobile Games Podcast. We are here yet again with your friend Jacob. I've been alluding to the fact that he'd be joining us again. And it was my fault that he hasn't joined us earlier. But welcome back, Jacob.
Hello to all the Mint citizens out there. What's up, everybody?
Yeah. And I was talking to him a little bit off of this podcast, and we were just discussing, you guys are a very loyal little following. I have been very impressed looking at the analytics to these episodes, even though they're few and far between. And you guys listen to almost the entire episode, even if they're a little bit long or on the longer side. So I definitely appreciate your guys' support on this, and it's pretty cool. Jacob was telling me that someone said, "Oh, I discovered you through the podcast." So that's really cool, and continue to shoot us those DMs and those comments, and let us know that you guys enjoy it, because every like, every comment, every kind word truly helps. But we have some really exciting things on the docket to discuss. It's going to be a very mobile gaming centric podcast today. Really cool stuff to talk about. I'm pretty excited, especially since Jacob's here. He has some great insights, and I'm sure he has a great list of things to talk about as well. But just starting off, Dicey Dungeons is finally about to release on mobile, and I know you're a fan of this game too. Am I right, Jacob?
100%. Dicey Dungeons is one of my favorite games of all time. And let me just say something that is not too controversial, but gets on the border. And that is this. In terms of deck builder games, or really this is kind of a deck builder / dice builder, this is my favorite deck builder of all time. And I know that that's probably very, very high praise to some people, considering there are some behemoths of deck building games. But Dicey's my favorite. No lie.
Wow. Starting off strong. Yeah, I completely agree. I definitely think it's in my top 5, if not top 3. It just nails so many aspects of like the deck building genre and the roguelike genre, and it just blends them in so well. And I'm a sucker for dice. I don't know about you, but I love the luck-based aspect mixed perfectly with the strategic aspect, and a game of chance. I don't know. Something about it really clicks with me.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, this is a game that there is a lot of RNG to it. And I know that some people might be turned off by heavy RNG, but I cannot get enough of it. I mean, I'm a huge roguelike and roguelite fan, and Dicey really makes the RNG aspects of it not only a core feature of the game that feels fair, it's very approachable when you have these extra characters and you have everything going on during your run. It's a bit of a game of chance, but it feels approachable, it feels fair, and it feels like without it, it would be less of a game. And so having the dice be the basis of your RNG just feels a lot better than some games that can be RNG heavy that sometimes feel a bit unfair.
Oh yeah, I 100% agree with that, and I think the icing on the cake too. Man, I love Dicey Dungeons' art style and sound design. I think they are definitely elite in the deck building genre, in my opinion. What do you prefer in the deck building genre? Do you like this art style, or?
I absolutely love this art style. I want to give a shout out to the um, individual behind the art for this game, whose name is Marlo Doby. Now, if you have been paying attention to the indie gaming space at all in the recent months we've been having, Marlo Doby is responsible for another game called Floppy Knights. Now, that is a game that I can definitely say check out if you have checked out Dicey Dungeons, but I cannot get enough of that super expressive, cartoony art style. You can actually go to their Twitter account, and they've done that art style for various things like Pokemon, for example. And just seeing how expressive and fun that art style is, it can work on anything. I would see that art style in any genre, and I would flock to it immediately. And the soundtrack is by an individual named Chipsel, and you should definitely check out their entire catalog because they've done various soundtracks, but they also do solo music, which is really, really good. Super catchy, super fun, definitely a chiptune basis. And I'm telling you, if you haven't checked it out, you're going to love it.
Dude, and thank you for sharing that information because I did not. I knew about the soundtrack, but I didn't know the artist. So I'm definitely gonna have to check them out and check out more of their work. And then Floppy Nights, of course. Jacob is the indie gaming connoisseur. There's a little game for you guys to check out. In the meantime, if he's saying that it looks promising, I'm sure it is. And I think that Dicey Dungeons, and as well as any like card game or deck builder in general, plays so well on mobile. Dare I say, I prefer to play them on mobile over any other platform personally. What about you?
Oh, I 100% agree. I mean, a great example for me is Slice and Dice, which I know I've gushed about in several podcast episodes now, but I have it on PC and on mobile, and I've played it way more on mobile than I've played it on PC. It's just such a great genre to unwind. It's a great genre to play before bed, depending on how long your runs are. But most of the time, it's just very accessible on mobile, and I love it. The controls translate very well, and there's several other deck builders that you can check out on mobile, like Pirate Outlaws and Slay the
Hmm.
Spire, games like that. It just feels like it's meant for mobile, whether it's on a phone or a tablet. I think it works really well on both. Which that's another thing is I can't say that every genre always translates to both phone and tablet. Like there are some
Hmm.
games on mobile that are just meant for a tablet. And then there are other games that just work better, portrait mode on your phone. Deck builders, I think, work really well either way.
Hmm.
And I'm excited to jump back in to Dicey. I put 50 plus hours into PC. I'm
Whew.
about to put more into PC. I don't know if you want to break the news about more stuff coming, but I'm prepared to do that, and I'm more than likely going to jump right back in and play it fresh all over again on mobile because it sounds like a really great time.
Oh yeah, and like kind of going off of what you said about how they play equally good on iPad and mobile, like on your phone. I think the key is always the size of text and having settings with that. And I think it's bonus points whenever a developer, and I've seen a lot more of this as of recently, especially this year, where a developer will make their game playable in portrait or landscape, and you can literally just do it on the fly and change it on the fly, and it adjusts and it plays just as well in either or. And fun fact, I prefer to play my games in portrait mode when possible. I don't know, it's maybe the one-handed form factor or whatever, but on when it comes to Dicey Dungeons, I was in the alpha and beta or I guess it was technically the beta of the test flight, the iOS test flight, and this game was ready straight out of the gate. As soon as I played it for like an hour, I was like, this is flawless. Like, I haven't encountered one glitch. I haven't encountered any control issues. The text size is perfect. There's a tons of settings. This is the full-fledged game, but it's on mobile with that pick up and play nature. You can play it wherever, whenever, in the comfort of your bed before you go to sleep, like I know you do with Slice and Dice and stuff like that. So I'm just excited. go get it when it comes out. I should have written down a note when it's coming out on iOS. I did not write it down eventually, but I know it's coming out very soon this month. Definitely keep an eye out for it. But that brought us to thinking about what other games, because I always thought Dicey Dungeons would come to mobile. I always thought it would be perfect for it. And now it's finally happening. It's becoming tangible, really exciting. But that brought me to discussing and kind of putting the idea out there with Jacob. What other games, or indie games specifically, need to come to mobile or seem like they're meant for mobile, and which specific games in general we'd love to see personally? So we've kind of made some lists before we started this podcast, and we didn't share them with each other. This is going to be raw and uncut. We're the first impressions, so to speak, of each other's lists, and we're going to kind of go back and forth with those. And Jacob, if you could start us off with your first game on that list that you want to see come to mobile and you feel like it would really perform well on mobile.
Okay, well, I was originally going to save this for last, but I think I'm going to flip my list and
Ooh.
do what I think the most obvious indie classic that should be on mobile that surprisingly is not on mobile, and that is none other than Spelunky. Like,
Ooh.
for
Class.
me, Spelunky is an absolute classic. Spelunky 2 expanded upon the first one, really good game as well. And every time I see it not being on mobile, I am flabbergasted that a classic like this, a roguelike 2D platformer with not a ton of controls, is not on mobile, and I would love to see it on mobile if possible. In fact, there was at one point, someone had tried to port the freeware version of Spelunky, because Spelunky used to be free with a bit of a simpler art style before the kind of more retail Spelunky that most people know at this stage. Tried to port that over. It ended up not being finished, and that was only for Android. And it just makes no sense to me why this game is not on mobile. It would be perfect playing it before bed, playing it on a bus or a train. Co-op would be amazing as well, but even just single player, Spelunky would be incredible. Doing the challenges like the dailies on
Oh
there.
man.
Oh, it would be so good. So if anyone is in contact with anyone involved in Spelunky, please make that happen, because I would buy it and I would play that probably every day.
I 100% agree with that. Like, the gameplay, I feel like developers for mobile and most developers have figured out a way to do like platforming kind of mechanics pretty well with the touchscreen. And now that most games on mobile offer controller support, I think it's a no-brainer. It just imagine just playing this on a tablet or something and busting out a controller, or even with the touchscreen controls, if they're done well. I feel like the gameplay mechanics are too complicated for touchscreen. I 100% agree with that. And what a classic to start off with. I see why you flip flopped your list. So, but one of the ones that we actually just mentioned before we started recording, and it's interesting that you mentioned it, Jacob, is Littlewood. Now, Littlewood, as soon as I saw this game, I was like, this looks like a slightly simpler Stardew Valley with some, I don't know, quality of life improvements, so to speak, maybe a little bit more approachable to the farming sim, life sim, so to speak, with its time-based mechanics. So every action you do in the game takes away a little portion of the life bar instead of having a constantly ticking clock, which definitely stresses me out when I'm trying to get into games like such as this one. I just feel like I'm so rushed and I don't have enough time to do what I want to do. But with this one, I'm like, okay, I can do this action, and this is going to take a little bit from my bar, and that's okay. And I have a set amount of things I can do, and then the next day happens. And this game, it's just a beautiful pixel art style. I love everything about its vibe, so to speak. And I think this would do super well on mobile because Stardew Valley is already on mobile. It's a brilliant port. It has full controller support, and it's a little bit more complicated than Littlewood. So I see no reason for this not to come to mobile and perform just as good, or I guess Stardew Valley is a giant, but perform just as good when it comes to the mechanics and how it performs with its controls and its settings. I think this could port. And isn't it on Switch, Jacob? Do you know?
It is, yes.
Okay. And the Switch games are very easy to port to mobile. Anything on Switch, honestly, I think devs are missing out if they don't just put in that bit of effort to port it over to mobile. And if Littlewood's on Switch, I see no reason for it not to be. But I had to include that one.
Oh, absolutely. And to your point about the Switch is based on mobile architecture. Like
Exactly.
it's using a Tegra processor, which was in the old NVIDIA Shield. So, there is a little bit of overlap between the mobile platforms that we know from phones and tablets to the Switch. It's definitely, it does take some effort, but it is
Mhm.
not the same thing as porting it to a completely different console.
Exactly. Yeah. But what do you have second on your list, Jacob? Now you've got me excited after Spelunky. That's such a solid start.
Absolutely. So, one thing I do want to bring up before I get into my next one, to sell
Mhm.
anyone else on Littlewood. Littlewood does have
Ooh.
one thing that Stardew doesn't, and that's terraforming.
Mhm.
So, if you're familiar with terraforming in games like Animal Crossing, you actually shape the town in Littlewood. So, the story of Littlewood is essentially you are the hero after the story. So, imagine, like, let's say you're Link, right? Have you ever had the what if scenario of like, well, the game's over. What do they do after that? Do they just rebuild a town? Do they just live normally? Like, what's going on here? That's kind of the inspiration for Littlewood. Is everything's chill. You've defeated the monster or whatever, and you're kind of picking up the pieces, building up the town, and getting to know everyone along the way. So I even think it could be an accessory to something like Stardew because it's very, very similar, but there's enough differences there that I think it could be a wonderful supplement or accessory game to Stardew. But my next one, in terms of indie games I wish were on mobile, I'm gonna go with Mixolumia. Now, Mixolumia is kind of hard for me to describe, but I'll say it like this. I think that you would agree with me
Mhm.
that um, the Tetris style games or the block pushing games, games of that nature, is surprisingly lacking on mobile.
Mhm. I
Like,
agree.
I mean, even the official Tetris, uh,
Oh, don't even get me started on that. I think we've talked about that actually before,
right?
but
Yeah, it's not good. And to me, like, really the only way I play Tetris on my phone is playing a ROM hack of the Game Boy version,
Mhm.
because I'm on Android. And that seems incredibly disappointing that there's an official Tetris and there's potential for other Tetris style games. And it doesn't really feel like anyone has nailed that side of gaming on mobile, even though it would be perfect on mobile. It's just very bizarre. Now, where Mixolumia would come in is, to me, Mixolumia, it has a lot of differences from something like Tetris,
Mhm.
but it's in the ballpark, and it's not kind of on a rectangular um, drop down field. It's in a diamond, which creates some interesting strategies with sliding. It has a little bit of a match three component, but audio visually, this game to me feels like the sort of indie companion to Tetris Effect, where Tetris Effect to me is the ultimate way to play Tetris. Like, it took something that people thought was simple and transcended people's expectations and view of what Tetris is. That game is incredible. If you've never played Tetris Effect and you have any console or a PC, like, after this episode, go buy it, download it, play it. It might even change your life. I'm telling you, the visuals and audio is so incredible in that game. why does that relate to Mixolumia? Mixolumia's presentation and music is also very, very good. You have different color palettes, you have that kind of visual feedback when things are happening. It's incredible, and it like bridges the gap between minimalism in its presentation and hyper detail, and it kind of wavers in that way, the way Tetris Effect kind of does, where Tetris Effect can kind of highlight a more simplistic sort of Tetris experience, and then
Mhm.
things just open up like this crescendo of the presentation and the audio in Tetris Effect. Mixolumia has some of that in there, and I think gameplay wise, it would translate perfectly to mobile, and I think it would absolutely blow up on that platform. If it ever happens, I would play it on mobile immediately and probably exclusively play it on mobile from there on out. I'd love to see it happen. But for now, you can definitely play it on PC, and I'm not sure about console, maybe Switch, but not 100% on that. But look up Mixolumia, really cool game.
As you were talking about it, I looked it up because I remember you've mentioned this before. Because I'm so glad that you just gushed about Tetris Effect. It's a top 10 game of mine of all time. Like Tetris is one of my favorite games of all time, but Tetris Effect, I will never forget. It is like a core gaming memory. I will never forget the first time I fired up that game. The way it mixes the sound design, and then the sound is altering depending on what you're doing in the game, and then visually there's just so much art happening on the stream, so many animations, and the color palettes. It's something you'll never witness in any other game, in my opinion. It is a once in a lifetime game to play, so highly suggest you guys check that out. And the way you described Mixolumia, and me looking at it from like a brand new point of view on Steam, it really does look like you said, the indie version of this, where it's pixelated. It's a beautiful pixel art style. It looks like it has a lot of stuff going on visually with its colors and animations. And I was looking at the developer or publisher, and they make Flip On, which I've actually made a review of this game, and it's on mobile. It's a great kind of it's kind of like what is it called? But it has like a match three kind of puzzle game vibe to it. And this is already on mobile. It plays extremely well. So maybe this one is not far off, honestly. If you've never checked out Flip On, Jacob, definitely give it a try. But I 100% think this will probably come to mobile eventually if Flip On's already on there. It's only one step away, but that looks awesome. And it's on sale right now for the summer sale, but I don't know how much longer the summer sale is going to last. Thanks a lot, Jacob. Now I'm going to have to buy another game today. But yeah, that's awesome. Well, I don't know how to follow up that. I'm biased towards what you just shared, but this is I'm going to share a duo of games right here, actually. And they have a cool little story. So the other day, I downloaded on the App Store, which I couldn't believe I found because I've heard nothing about it coming to mobile, Stacklands, which is kind of like a Civ builder mixed with a deck builder mixed with solitaire, which sounds really interesting, sounds really weird, but it works. And I've always thought this would come to mobile eventually. I think it would play very well on mobile because we've kind of talked about how card games work really well on touchscreens. And I downloaded it, and it played great. The controls were great. The size of the text was great. It was all working fine. But I was getting like an ad every what seemed like 60 seconds after every like couple actions I would make. I'm like, whoa, this seems weird. Because the developer of this game is a really good developer. I've followed them on Twitter for quite some time. I was like, this seems suspicious. I feel like they wouldn't go with such a overly aggressive ad-based model. Turns out someone ripped the game, ported it to mobile, and somehow it made it past the inspections of the App Store. And so the developer is trying to get it removed as we speak. I don't know. I haven't checked recently if they actually got it removed or not. But that was an unofficial port. So this game someone knew that it needed to be on mobile, that it would play really well on mobile, and they ported it and ported it well to make a quick buck. I just thought that was hilarious. Now, why this is bundled in with my second suggestion is Peglin, the same exact thing happened. Someone ported it to mobile. I haven't personally tried it out, but it seems like it plays pretty dang well. And it ported it to mobile. Peglin is like a Peggle type game mixed with an RPG. And Jacob, you've covered, I think, both of these actually, right? Am I incorrect?
I have covered Peglin
Peglin for
on
sure.
my
Yeah.
channel. I've covered Stacklands on Twitter.
Okay, on Twitter. That's where it was. But I just thought that was hilarious that both of these games, immediately when you covered Peglin, I was like, this would play flawlessly on mobile. This is made for mobile at this point. And Stacklands, I thought it was a little bit of a longer shot, but kind of in the Dicey Dungeons kind of forte, where I feel like it would play really well and it could eventually come. But obviously, someone else who really wanted to make a quick buck thought so as well and tried to port them. And I mean, they're eventually going to get removed, but that just shows the potential. And that obviously, I'm not the only one who thinks that this could eventually come to mobile and could play well on mobile. But yeah, that's my 2 for 1 on my list right there.
Nice. To build off of that, I do want to give a shout out to I don't know anything. Okay, let me get it out in front of this first. I know absolutely nothing about this, but it is not going to be surprising to me if Peglin ends up on mobile because that game I can't remember if it was the first week or the first month they made $1 million. So
Holy crap! I did not
the
know that.
game the game has sold unbelievably well, and I think the reason it's not on mobile yet is because it's still in early access on PC. The game has changed remarkably from even the time when I made my video on it. Um, they've added orbs, they've added enemies. They're taking a lot of fan feedback, and they're really trying hard to work on things like not only extra content but balance, because trying to find a balance for all of these orbs and stuff is really hard. And I've even experienced it in Peglin where a patch would hit and I'm not really feeling it as much. A next patch hits and I'm right back in again because they're just trying so hard to do the right tweaks and everything. I think when that early access period is over, not only is it coming to Switch confirmed, but I believe we'll start to hear things about mobile at that point, which I believe will be next year is when 1.0 should hit. Um, but I absolutely love that game. I think it would be incredible on mobile, and if it ever came to mobile, which I really think it's going to, at this point with how well it's sold already on just PC alone, um, I'll play it all over again, and I'll play it on mobile potentially more than even on PC. So stay tuned for that. I know absolutely nothing, but follow Red Nexus Games on Twitter. And as far as Stacklands goes, that's made by Sock Pop. So follow them, and they have a Patreon, I believe. So maybe you can throw them a little Patreon money, and along with your Patreon donation, you can give them a little nudge for some mobile ports. They have added some content to Stacklands recently, which is something they don't normally do. They're a developer who tends to make a game. At one point, they were making a game every month. I believe they've moved it to every like 3 months. They make a game,
Mm-hmm.
and they added some content to Stacklands, and I think they're going to support it a little more long term. So if any of the Sock Pop games have potential to end up on mobile, I think it's Stacklands.
Yeah, fingers crossed, man. Fingers crossed.
But okay, so next up for me, ooh, this is tough because I have a few that I think are really good here. But I am going to go with a game that you and I have played that I believe is eventually going to come to mobile or might already be on mobile at this point because I wrote this list a little while ago. Super Animal Royale.
Ooh, ooh. Yes, and we have played this one together. Yeah.
That's right.
which
So
which we got our butts handed to us, but we were having fun anyways.
yeah, we got absolutely slapped in that game, but it was really fun. It is a cuter top-down battle royale, but it has way more depth than I ever thought it would. I mean, there is a lot of tactical decision making, a lot of weapons, a lot of movement potential with like the rolling ball, kind of the hamster ball type thing that is on there, and then you can I can't
Right,
remember if
like
it
an
was like
ostrich or something, some sort of
exactly.
bird. Yeah.
Exactly. So there's a lot of traversal mechanics and cool areas. It feels, I mean, it is a full-fledged battle royale with cute animals that plays just as well as any other battle royale you've probably played, with very few exceptions above it. And I think it would do really well on mobile because we've already seen, very popular battle royales be sort of translated to mobile in a way that works really well. I mean, um, Apex Legends is on mobile now. Like their
Yeah.
Call of Duty has a mobile version. There's plenty of other examples. And having a top-down, cuter battle royale to kind of be another option for people, I think is only a slam dunk for a game like Super Animal Royale. And I think the art style and presentation and everything else going on would translate well to mobile. It's a twin stick, battle royale, but I think that could work well in the touchscreen and kind of have your grenades and other accessories like healing opportunities that can be mapped to the screen in a way that doesn't feel too clunky. And then add controller support for those that want it. I think it could work really well. So yeah, Super Animal Royale, and it's free. So if you have a console or PC, check it out. You will probably get slapped for a while because there are some dedicated people to Super Animal Royale, and there is a lot more depth than I ever thought it would have. So, but check it out. It's free.
That is a fantastic suggestion, and I that never even crossed my mind. Frankly, I remember we were talking. Maybe this would play pretty good on mobile when we were playing it, but I totally spaced on that for this list. And like Jacob said, this game is deceivingly deep. Like we were discovering new items, new ways to use items, new strategies. People have real like there's definitely a skill ceiling and a learning curve to it. And we've seen so many. It's basically a dual stick shooter at its core, and there's tons of those on mobile because it translates really well. So like bare minimum, the shooting mechanics and the movement mechanics would feel really good. And what's great about cross-platform games and cross-progression games is that if you're playing with touchscreen, you could be put with only touchscreen, only mobile players. And for those players that want to use controllers, then once you start using a controller, then you'd be put against people on console or maybe even PC too. So I think that would fit extremely well. And we've seen so many battle royale games come to mobile already, and this one fits mobile better than any of them at face value, in my opinion. Great suggestion. We've been talking a lot about a lot of card games, but I have to mention at least one more, and then I have another game after this one. After you share yours, of course. But Roguebook. Are you familiar with Roguebook at all?
Absolutely. Yeah, it's
Oh
by
man.
I believe it's the Faria developers, right?
Yes, yes. It's by the Faria developers, and they actually had input from the creator of Magic the Gathering, and he was heavily involved in the creation of the mechanics involved in this game. A lot of the cards, a lot of the various elements, and it really does put a really cool spin on what you're doing in between the actual deck building card battles, where you kind of explore this map and you have a certain amount of energy. There's cards that and different encounters and different instances that you can discover on this map. So you have to strategically kind of walk around this map, explore all of the corners. It just really puts such a simple spin on the deck building, roguelike deck building formula. And it's so well done. I'm surprised no one else has kind of implemented this into their game. I haven't seen it done in any other deck builder slash roguelike to date. And it's so well done, and it just needs to come to mobile. That's all I gotta say. It's that simple.
Oh, that is a great suggestion. I think it would be really, really good. For me, the next one I think that I want to talk about was inspired by another game that did incredibly well on mobile recently. So, first I'm going to talk about the game, then I'll talk about what it was inspired by. But the game that I would recommend come to mobile is a twofer because it could be either one and I would be super happy. Islanders or Dwarf Romantic. Now, the reason that I recommend either of those come to mobile is are you familiar with Townscaper?
Townscaper, yeah, is that the one where you kind of build your own like town layout? Am I
Basically, yep.
Yeah,
And it kind of
okay.
reacts to where you're clicking and things like that. Super satisfying. It kind of is more of an experience than what you would feel as a typical game type feel, but it's
Mhm.
very satisfying, very relaxing. And so that made me think about Islanders and Dorf Romantic. Now,
M'kay.
I've played quite a bit of Islanders, and I love that game because it is the most chill city builder I've ever played ever. I mean, it's technically a roguelike because it's procedural generation and you can run out of points in building depending on what mode you play, but basically what it is you get a very small area, typically like an island or almost like a diorama type setting, and you're given some pieces to place down. Now, depending on where it is and how you place it, you can get more points. The more points you get, the ability that you get unlocked is the ability to move on to another island, which is typically a larger island or a different kind of terrain with different sort of things that you can place down. And you can just lose quite a bit of time to playing Islanders in a way that is just so chill, so satisfying, very chill kind of audio experience. Visually, it's low poly, beautiful low poly, and it's just so relaxing and very simple. I believe there's an endless mode where you can just take the points all away and just build to your heart's content. I like playing it on the sort of default mode, which is, you have to get points and then you move on, get more points, move on. Or you can stick around and just continue to rack up points on the island that you're building until the pieces that you're being given run out. And you kind of have an option for that. So I would recommend Islanders. Dwarf Romantic is a bit similar, but if you're familiar with Hex Grid city
Mm.
builders, Dwarf Romantic has that hex grid that many people who love city builders on a hex grid are going to be looking for. So if you're like a hex grid city builder junkie, Dwarf Romantic is definitely the one to go with. If not, if you want something a bit more free, a little bit more open ended, a little bit simpler, maybe go for Islanders. And Islanders is always very cheap. Like, if you ever want something chill to play either before bed or after a punishing roguelike or punishing RPG experience, or uh, maybe if you're playing something like Apex and squad's not doing too well, maybe you're having a tough go at it, maybe unwind with a little Islanders afterwards. So yeah, if you're still on the Steam sale, anyone out there on PC, I think you got until tomorrow. If you're looking for something for a few bucks to add to that total to make it a even number, or if you're very particular about numbers, Islanders might be the one for you to pick up. It's also a good one to unwind if you're a streamer, playing that at the end of a stream to kind of wind down. I think Islanders could be good for that too. So I would love to see either one of those on mobile. Um, and maybe we'll see it. Hopefully, fingers crossed. Islanders is on all the consoles and PC. So maybe there's a slight bit of hope for it to end up on mobile.
Oh yeah, and you're speaking to my soul as the Apex addicted player I am, and how sweaty this season has been. I need a relaxing game, that is for sure. But yeah, is this by the same developer, all three of those, Townscaper, Islanders, and Dwarf, or is it by the same publisher?
No, all different developers and all different
Okay.
publishers. Yep.
Oh, interesting, because they're all in a bundle right now on Steam.
Yep.
Oh, it's just a Serene City Builder bundle, I see. But they all have a similar color palette. And they Islanders and Dwarf, like you said, definitely look similar. But yeah, Townscaper is on mobile, and I've heard literally nothing but good things about it. And so, in the meantime, while we're waiting, definitely go check that out. Um, yeah, a lot of the mobile creators that I know of gush about that game, and I just haven't given it a shot. Maybe that's what I need to branch into while we do our seances for Islanders and Dwarf. But all right, my final one. Now, this I've actually played on stream way back in the day. I'm a huge fan of this game. Star Renegades. Now, I think this is overlooked, criminally overlooked. Some of the best pixel art and animations I have ever seen. Probably one of my favorites. Um, this is a really cool turn-based RPG with great fleshed out characters that you really get to know and love. Lots of decision making with its story. Um, and the turn-based mechanics, this is not a game where you can just mash buttons and just kind of grind out battles. Far from. Every single battle, every decision you make is very integral, and it has a really cool timeline system where characters will have different speeds at which attacks go off, certain power levels of attacks. And so there's just every ability, activatable, attack, defensive maneuver, everything has a speed at which it's enacted and a time at which you can actually use it. And so with that timeline, you'll see when your team as well as enemies are attacking, defending. You kind of can adjust on the fly and determine, oh, I want this character to take this hit right now, and I want this character to attack quickly and try to finish off this character. And this ability is really strong against this. It's just one of the deepest turn-based games I have ever played, and it's just a menu-based system, as all turn-based RPGs are. And the traversal system is super simple, where you're kind of just exploring preset worlds, so to speak, and going through, and the enemy encounters are visible on the map. So you could literally just use a touch-based system where the characters or your party just follow your finger, and it would be so easy. Or you just tap, and it auto paths. It plays really good on controller too. That's what I played it on PS4. And controller support would be super easy to do as well. That's the beauty of having Bluetooth controllers. You could use an Xbox One controller. You can use one of the new Xbox controllers. You can use PS5, PS4. There's just so much diversity with controllers on mobile, and especially on tablet. I think this game would absolutely shine. Definitely an amazing game if you haven't played it already. I highly suggest it if you're wanting to scratch that turn-based RPG itch, and you're kind of sick of the Pokemon-esque type battle systems where you kind of just grind out battles mindlessly, mashing the A button, going through battles. This one, every single encounter feels intense and rewarding. So please, oh please, come to mobile eventually. A Star Renegades.
That's such a good suggestion, and I had written down, I was like, I hope MintCity talks about Star Renegades, because I have heard you gush about it before, and we both agree on like its art style and presentation and everything. Just incredibly well done. That pixel art is amazing. So
Yeah.
my last one, and I have a couple that are like outside looking in, but we're gonna ignore those for now because one game that inspired me to pick this last one was Exit the Gungeon. Now, Exit the Gungeon initially released on Apple Arcade,
hmm
and it had touch controls and controller controls, and it controlled really well. I was very surprised that it would control so well for like a twin stick shooter type experience, and it was pretty good. Um, Now, with all of that being said, in terms of side-on shooter roguelike, so I'm not talking side-on games like Dead Cells, for example. I'm talking about twin stick shooter focused kind of side-on roguelike experiences, action roguelikes. This is a game that I think needs to be on mobile because I think it does it so incredibly well. And honestly, in my opinion, does it better than even Exit the Gungeon. And I'm saying that as somebody who
Ooh,
refers to Enter the Gungeon as one of their favorite games of all time. Enter the Gungeon is easily in my top 5 games of all time. Exit the Gungeon, not quite as high. But here's the game that I think should be on mobile. It's a game called Neon Abyss. Now, Neon Abyss is published by Team 17, and it is a twin stick shooter, side on roguelike with a very kind of dance club vibe and
Hotline Miami with its color palette.
a little bit, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And super fun colors, super fun weapons, very wacky. You have pets that you can acquire along the way that will like either attack or heal. There's so many different mechanics going on, but the way that they address the twin stick shooting on PC and console led me to believe, oh, this could work great on mobile. In Neon Abyss, you don't actually press the shoot button. That doesn't exist. You simply aim and it shoots for you. So aim and shoot is all controlled by the right stick.
Brilliant.
Now, I think that could translate very well to mobile, not just on a controller, on touchscreen, because I've seen other games do things similarly on the sort of top down twin stick shooter variety. There's a game that I know you've suggested before that I'm blanking on now that kind of had a little bit of similarity to Enter the Gungeon. And I ended up playing that game and it controlled really well. So I think on a side on sort of perspective, this could work really well for Neon Abyss. The bosses are very well done, very detailed. The rooms are cool. Like there are all these different hidden mechanics going on and hidden opportunities. There are tons of different characters. So different character classes. It has so much going on for it and it does it better than Exit the Gungeon in my opinion. Exit the Gungeon is a very good game and I just think Neon Abyss does it a little bit better. Now, Enter the Gungeon, the first game, is still super high on my list, exceeds almost anything that I've talked about. But in terms of the side on perspective, twin stick shooting, you cannot go wrong with Neon Abyss. And if you're on console or PC, definitely pick it up because you're going to have a super fun time and you'll find a character that works for you and you'll find some secrets and you'll have an absolute blast. Neon Abyss. I would love to see that on mobile. Team 17 has published some mobile titles before. So like the Worm series, that's on mobile. And they have a couple of other games
The
in there.
Escapists. Yeah, for
Yes,
sure.
the
Yeah.
Escapists.
My
And
time at Portia. Or my time.
th-
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
that's right. So that one and the Survivalists is on Apple Arcade. So they have experience with publishing titles on mobile. I'd love to see Neon Abyss be the next one in their catalog to make the jump over to the mobile platform.
Well, that just pushed me over because it is available on Xbox Games Pass for those of you who have a console. And I'm a huge fan and proponent. I love Xbox Games Pass, and I was actually eyeing Neon Abyss literally like 2 days ago. So it's funny that you mentioned that, and that will push me over then. Edge. I'll definitely give it a download. It looks super action packed. You described it super well. I think that the key, like you said, is you just push in one direction and it automatically shoots, and that's huge on a touchscreen. So that would translate extremely well.
Oh,
So
absolutely. And
man,
by the way, you mentioned Xbox Game Pass, and I am so happy you did because I almost forgot about a mobile game like announcement that blew my mind, and I was so happy to see. This is a staple of Xbox Game Pass, a game that ascended in its popularity on Xbox Game Pass is coming to mobile. I actually believe it might already be out on mobile, and it's called Descenders. So, uh,
Descenders.
okay, let me rant about Descenders for a minute, and I
Look
will
at
tell
you.
you why.
You're the mobile master. I haven't even heard of this. That's cool.
I gotta be read up so I can contribute to this podcast. I don't want to just talk about PC indies, through the episode. Which is why I love being on here because it keeps me informed on all of the platforms, and I really appreciate it. Now, Descenders is downhill, very fast BMX style like trail riding. It is exhilarating, incredible, brilliant soundtrack, very good visuals, and it is one of my favorite games on PC right now. You go down randomly generated tracks, and there will be various conditions. It could be curvy, hilly, lots of trick opportunities. You might end up not having a trail at all, or you might end up being in first person view, which is like a totally different experience. There's tons of customizability with different bikes that have different tricks, different costumes or cosmetics, I should say. It is multiplayer, so when you're riding on these trails, you will see kind of like ghost versions of other people who are also riding it. So it's kind of in a way asynchronous,
Hmm.
um, because you're not racing against them, you're racing with them, and that's like a cool vibe. There's a hub area where you're actually seeing people ride around and practicing and stuff. Really cool. There's like different teams you can join that give you different accessories, and it is just exhilarating, but oddly relaxing. It totally toes the line between clinching and relaxing. And I don't know of very many games that do that, that toe that line. Shout out to No More Robots, who is the publisher, and Rage Squid, who is the developer. And it's a game that I think everybody should check out. Plays incredibly well on a controller. I've never played it on mouse and keyboard. I really probably wouldn't recommend it on that, but on controller, highly recommend it. And it looks great. I've seen some footage of it on mobile, and it looks incredible. So whether you decide to play it on mobile or on Game Pass, please play it because it is so good. And Mike Rose of No More Robots had a thread a long while ago because this game was in on Game Pass quite early, I believe, and they showered Microsoft with praise on how it increased not just player base but pure sales. And the game has sold so well, they're now porting it to mobile. So that is the effect of Game Pass. I know that there are some concerns with Game Pass, like how sustainable is it? Is it going to be that price forever and things like that? Let's just cross that bridge when we come to it because the power of Game Pass is real for indies out there. Like, it's a really cool thing to see. And yeah, Descenders, it's either already out on mobile or it's coming to mobile very, very soon. Highly recommend it. Absolutely play it.
I'm so glad you said that. So I think did you tweet about this? I recognize this game. I don't know if you tweeted about it or not, but
I've definitely tweeted about Descenders before showering it with praise. So I don't know if
okay.
it was retweeting the mobile announcement or just me talking about how cool it is, but yeah, I've definitely shouted from the rooftops about Descenders before.
Awesome. Yeah, it looks great, and I assume it's going to use the gyroscope, right? Gyroscopic controls.
I don't know,
Um,
but it would be really cool if it did.
yeah, it looks perfect for it. It really looks like a lot of the dirt bike games I used to play on console back in the day. Uh, with its mechanics and stuff, it looks really fun. Yeah. Wow. Well, that's a surprise and a half. I'm looking forward to that now. And it sounds like it's going to be out very, very soon. So, well, that is a solid list of games that would do well on mobile and that we hope will come to mobile. I literally don't know what else to say. I think we covered it really well. Is there anything else that you'd like to talk about during this podcast? Obviously, feel free to plug anything and everything. Your friend Jacob, his content is immaculate. Catch him before he's huge is all I've got to say.
Wow, it's hard for me to follow that up, but thank you so much for the kind words. In terms of following me or any kind of support y'all want to give, go to youtube.com/yourfriendjacob, and you can find my channel. That's the main place you'll find me. Just watch one of my videos. Pick any video you want, watch it, hit the thumbs up, maybe leave a comment. That would be amazing. I've had individuals who follow MintCity come to the channel, watch a video, and comment, "Hey, I found you from MintCity," which is like the coolest thing ever. So if that's you, I would love for you to comment anywhere on my channel that MintCity sent you there, because that would be incredible. You can also follow me on Twitter. It's my handle is YourFriendJacob. Replace the O with a 0. I talk about it all the time, but I still cannot get that handle. Please, the person using it, you don't even use Twitter anymore. Please let me have it. But I think also if you search Your Friend Jacob, you'll probably find me. But if anything, just subscribe to my YouTube channel. That would be amazing. We're on the road to 1,500 and maybe 2,000 before we know it. So that would be incredible. And the only other thing I want to plug is if you've made it this far and you haven't subscribed to MintCity, what are you doing? Subscribe there. Go to my channel later. Hit the subscribe button now on MintCity.
Man, leave it to Jacob to be the ultimate hype man. I always leave these podcasts with an inflated ego, that's for sure. But yeah, definitely go check out his content. I love his list videos, especially, are insanely good. He just released a really cool one on it was turn-based RPGs or it's strategy games, right? Strategy games.
It was turn-based strategy,
Yeah.
and as a bit of a teaser for anyone who hasn't checked out that video yet, one of those games is coming to mobile. So check that out.
Yeah, there we go. Leave them on a cliffhanger. I like that a lot. Yeah, they're all good. I found a lot of cool indie games through his channel. Before we even became acquainted, I was watching his channel and I loved every video. So solid. It's a great way to spend your time if you're looking for indie games. He is the connoisseur, and he's very active on all of his socials too. Super helpful. So definitely check that out. And once again, thank you, Jacob, for being here. It's always a treat. It's been awesome doing this podcast. You might as well be a co-host at this point because this is your third episode, right, that you've been on?
I believe so, and honestly, I will be on whenever you want me on.
All right, that's what I'm talking about. And you guys definitely seem to enjoy Jacob. He's a great guy. So, all right, don't forget to leave that like, pop that sub, comment. You have no idea how much that helps. And I guess we will catch you in the next episode. See you later.